Not every woman who hurts you is a narcissist. And not every painful relationship is abusive. So before you go out there calling her narcissist, we want you to watch this. Welcome to the Campbell and Amanda podcast. My name is Campbell.
My name is Amanda.
And this is a follow-up episode to the previous one from last week, where we talked about the 10 core truths every man needs to hear. Today, we want to offer another perspective, beginning with this one.
Not every difficult relationship is narcissistic abuse.
Exactly. So just because your partner is critical, they're distant, or emotionally withdrawn, it doesn't automatically mean that they are a narcissist.
True. So watch both episodes so as not to be confused.
Exactly, because we're talking about the guys in this respect, right?
And so last week we talked about some of the signs and naming it and being self-aware, yada yada. And this is a necessary step to watch the second one as well.
Exactly. Because, sometimes people have dysfunction in their behavior due to trauma, due to insecurities, poor communication skills, etc., etc. So just because they are exhibiting these things does not automatically make them a narcissist. And particularly we're talking to the guys. Just because your woman displays these behaviors doesn't mean she's a narcissist.
It doesn't mean that she has a personality disorder.
Exactly. All right. And that is super important for you to remember. And the second part we want you to remember is this one.
Patterns matter more than episodes. So patterns of behavior are what will help you to understand what is the baseline.
Yes.
For your partner.
Because everybody is entitled to a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Everybody is entitled to a bad day. So what you want to look for is patterns over time. You want not to overblow one particular episode that happens, but you want to see, is this a pattern for this person and therefore a narcissist?
Right. And like you alluded to, there's could be a certain conditioning of behavior too, based on upbringing. And sometimes you have to unlearn things that you've learned that you were conditioned to do. And so you may need to, there may be some patterns, but there may be some opportunity to break those patterns too.
Exactly. And that's where accountability comes in. And you have to ask yourself and ask your partner, basically, is there accountability? Because again, sometimes people behave out of habit, and therefore it's a pattern, right? And nobody has ever brought that up to them. They are not aware that their behavior is actually dysfunctional. So until you bring it to their awareness, they'll keep on doing it. So first of all, is there accountability for the behavior? Is there remorse for the behavior? In other words, when they do something that offends you or they act in a narcissistic way and you bring it up, is there an exhibition of remorse on their part? Are they sorry for what they did?
Right, because somebody who is has a narcissistic personality will not have any remorse. They will, in fact, try to make you feel like you're the one to blame.
Exactly.
And so this is an opportunity to determine, is this a learned pattern of behavior? That can we work through this? Yeah.
Basically, is she capable of emotional repair? Is she capable of change? And those are hard questions that you have to ask yourself before making any drastic decision, because narcissistic abuse is about consistent patterns of control. Consistent patterns of control, not just isolated blow-ups or emotional distance. That is super important for you to understand. For you to label your partner as a narcissist, there has to be this consistency in patterns of control.
Right. Because like we said, emotional, if you are self-aware, if she can be self-aware, if she can be held accountable, if she can be, willing to get some help or support to address some challenges, then she's probably not a narcissist.
Yes. Okay. Then the next thing that we want you to look for is basically determine what position is she acting from? And what we mean is this: she might be acting out of fear, right? Not malice. So you have to kind of step back and give her the benefit of the doubt, because she might be acting out of fear instead of malice.
Right. She might not have malicious intent for you, meaning she doesn't want to necessarily control every aspect of the relationship or even you, but she does it to protect herself for one reason or another. So because she's afraid of something that happened in the past or something that may happen now. And
especially if she grew up in an environment where there is just emotional chaos, emotional neglect, right? So she might act out in terms of, she might have some narcissistic tendencies, not out of malice, but out of self-protection.
Mm-hmm. That's right. As a way to feel safe.
Exactly.
Which does not excuse that behavior because it's harmful, but it shifts the lens from she's evil to she's unhealed.
Yes. That is an important switch.
Yeah.
Because the moment you've labeled somebody a narcissist, basically you're saying she's evil. But when you step back and consider that she might be acting out of fear, which basically is her need for protection to feel safe, then you move from looking at her just as plain evil to, no, she needs healing.
Yeah, and this process doesn't happen without you being willing to confront and address, like name. We talked about in our previous podcast, naming the behaviors, recognizing is this a pattern of behavior, addressing it, confronting it, speaking about it to her, and giving her an opportunity to be remorseful and to seek some sort of forgiveness, as well as look to grow.
Exactly. And this makes a huge difference, especially if you're trying to make a decision whether should I stay or should I go? Should I stay or should I leave? The moment you give your partner the benefit of the doubt and consider that she might be acting from a place of fear because of her upbringing, that shifts how you approach her in the relationship. That gives you more grace. You watch what you say, and you become a little bit more patient when addressing the issues that she has in terms of narcissistic tendencies.
Right.
All right.
So you also have to realize that you may be contributing to her patterns of behavior, even unintentionally. Sometimes we tolerate dysfunction because of our own wounds. So she may have had, some challenges in her upbringing that have habituated her in these behaviors, and likely you too. So you have to address that. You have to be self-aware. You have to name them for yourself, and you have to be able to address them yourself.
Especially if, consider this situation, right? You're dealing with now I'm talking to the guys here, but it can apply to either sexes, right? If you are dealing with a wife who grew up in an environment where she was always on the defensive emotionally, where it was chaotic, right? So she comes into the relationship with you and displays these narcissistic tendencies of control. And then you grew up in the same kind of environment, but your reaction to that was to walk on eggshells, to avoid confrontation. And then when you come together, that may be a very bad mix, because your behavior when she acts up, in quotations here, when she acts up, if your behavior is to draw back, walk on eggshells, you're now empowering and feeding those narcissistic tendencies in her, and you're contributing to the situation. Did that make sense?
Yeah. So you're tolerating her dysfunction when she acts up. When she exhibits these patterns of behavior, you're not speaking out against it because of your own pattern of walking on eggshells, being able to, to tolerate this chaos and dysfunction.
Yeah, and this doesn't make it your fault. All right. This doesn't place blame on you. It just means that healing has to be on both ends, both sides, right? You have to face your own dysfunction. You have to face the fact that you developed a pattern of tolerating narcissistic people around you because you were afraid of confronting them. You need to deal with that so that healing can now happen in this relationship.
Right. You can't accept, you have to draw a boundary and not accept the chaos anymore, the dysfunction, and set a new standard, a new standard of what you will and will not accept or tolerate, which is hard. This is a big ask, but at the same time,
it is a big ask.
It's necessary for healing.
Exactly. All right. And also realize that the marriage may be starving, not just toxic, right? It may be starving, not just toxic. When emotional connection breaks down, both people often feel starved and misunderstood. All right. And that is super important for you to remember. And that your spouse, may be lashing out, maybe withdrawing, or trying to survive in a relationship where she all of a sudden feels alone.
Yeah. I mean, in life, there's a lot of adulting is not for the faint of heart. No, like, I don't recommend it. I have young staff that are in college who are working for me for the summer.
Don't grow up.
I say, adulting is hard. Don't do it as long as you can. No. But seriously though, there's so much that, so much maturing that needs to take place in life to be a healthy, functional adult. And if you come from a chaotic, dysfunctional background, you have to do double the work because you have to catch up and be able to function in the world where everybody expects you to be mature.
And again, this doesn't justify her abuse, by the way, right?
Right.
It just invites empathy on your part and curiosity before judgment.
Right. And before just closing the door.
Yes.
And labeling somebody something that they may not be. Because labels can trap you just as much as the relationship. Yeah.
So calling your wife a narcissist might bring clarity to you. You're like, oh my gosh, I can finally identify who she is because of these patterns of control. But you labeling her as a narcissist can also shut down the possibility of repair or growth, because she may not like that somebody has finally identified or finally called her out for who she is, and may react in a defensive manner and shut down instead of open up.
Right. It frames the story in a way where you're the victim. She's the villain and there's no path forward, and nobody wants to be the villain.
No, nobody wants.
Nobody wants to be Cruella de Vil.
No, no. Even people that say I don't really care about what people think about me, at some level they do care about what people think about them. So narcissists have a tendency of coming across as very self-confident and very self-assured, but have very thin skin. Right. So when somebody finally calls them out and say, no, you are a narcissist, and God forbid that you give them even a medical diagnosis of malignant narcissist. Oh my gosh, all bets are off. They are now in a defensive posture. And because you have labeled them the villain and yourself as the victim, it becomes very hard for your spouse to see the way forward.
It's most definitely going to be a battle. Like, it's most definitely going to be received as, what's the word? I mean, she is going to feel defensive, and she's going to rise up against that initially because you've tolerated it all this time. This dysfunction and this chaos, this pattern of controlling behavior, and now you're calling it something else. So you have to be prepared that it is going to definitely cause an uprising within her. But then the opportunity for growth is still there, with time and some space and just continued communication, staying connected.
And before you label her a narcissist, there is power in asking the right kind of questions, right? And we want you to we want to leave you basically with these questions that you can ask. First of all, what patterns am I seeing? Is this a one-off? Is this a blow-up? Or is this consistent patterns of control? And therefore, she's a narcissist. Right.
And journal it if you need to. Because, sometimes your mind you feel like if she is a narcissist, you will feel like your mind is playing tricks on you, because that's gaslighting, and that's a classic behavior of narcissists, to gaslight you all the time. Exactly. So take a journal, write it down. The paper doesn't forget.
Yes. So that is the first question. How, what patterns am I seeing? Secondly, how does she respond when I express pain? Right? So is she empathetic? Does she understand my perspective, or does she twist everything to come back to her? Right? if that is the case, then that might be a sign of narcissism as well.
Right. And then ask, have I made space to really listen to what she's feeling? Especially if you're going to call her a villain and call out some of these negative patterns that she most likely isn't aware of in herself. Have you made space to really listen to what she's feeling? And can we name what's happening without blaming? Yeah. Do you want to go on and touch on that one?
I think that in some respects, it is self-explanatory, but basically, and this is really tricky. And the way I advise people to do something like this is to avoid you statements.
Right.
Like,
and always,
never, you always do this, you never listen to me, you. When you insert the word you, it basically says to the person, this is who I am, right? And if they feel attacked, they're going to put up walls immediately. So you have to be very tactful in how you can name the behavior without placing blame.
So, for example, you could say, when X, Y, and Z happens, it makes me feel, however it makes me feel like nervous, not sure how to behave, question myself, what all the classic characteristics of somebody who's feels like they're being controlled. Yes. I walk on eggshells. I feel like I have to walk on eggshells. I feel like I question myself. I feel like I have no say, no voice, yada, yada. So when you say you always do this, there's not going to be she's not going to hear you.
No, she's not.
But if she can hear your feelings, then there's hope.
Yes, exactly. What's your final take on this?
Final take is, like I said for the previous, the first part of this is do some soul searching for yourself. You have to be self-aware. You have to ask the questions. You have to really consider the patterns, and you have to confront. No, without a doubt, you will not be able to move forward in the relationship in a healthy way if she is not a narcissist. You're not going to be able to grow in a healthy relationship, and you're honestly, if you walk away, you're going to just end up in the same position. So you have to be able to confront what is happening, name it, and ask the right questions so that you can address and grow. Exactly.
And realize this, the perspective that we have shared today does not minimize real abuse. Mm-hmm. So if you feel like you're in an unsafe relationship, emotionally, psychologically, physically, you need to protect yourself and get some help. Mm-hmm. And if you're in a relationship that's broken, not abusive, and if the dysfunction goes both ways, if there's still some desire on both sides to repair, then the path forward might not be leaving. It might just be honest, guided work to heal together. Mm-hmm. Right? So weigh this with humility and self-reflection. Journal as much as you can. Try and address these issues with your partner. And if you hit a brick wall, maybe that is a time when you will need some professional help to get past this, as long as there's willingness on both ends to deal with it.
Right. And it doesn't hurt to have a little distance between you, so you both have opportunity to be objective and to reflect. It doesn't hurt. It only will make you healthier and stronger.
Exactly. All right, guys, until next week, thank you so much for joining us. And please, if you haven't seen last week's video, we want you to check it out. Because a lot of men are in relationships with narcissistic women, and they don't just know how to describe it or how to name it. So we want you to watch this previous episode that we did in the video right here. Ciao.
Bye.